I gave you Deadbeat Dads or something. I gave you a thing called, I gave you a screenshot called Deadbeat Dads. Yeah. Hey, Get a Job is watching. That's nice.
Streaming now.
Joel Oz. That might be the other Joel.
Oh, nice.
Nice. Good morning, everybody. We are streaming. We're about to talk about the fakest of fake news.
Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la.
Good morning, everybody. We're going to be talking about this Washington Post article about Trump's so-called racial rhetoric. And we'll also touch on fake news and the reality that Jesse pointed out, that there's no such thing as a deadbeat dad. Interesting. Very interesting.
Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la.
Good morning, everybody. I'm chuckling to myself because Jesse cracks me up. I have, we were just showing a screenshot of, you can show it, of Jesse being like, he called a woman of color a dog. And because there is a lot of overreaction this week to Trump calling Omarosa a dog. And it's very interesting that people are calling this like a racially charged slur against a woman of color, against a black woman. And you guys can call in if you'd like to chat about it by calling 888-775-3773. And the number, the number can be there. You can put it there, Joel, and you can take it away. Like God, he gives and takes away. But anyways, what's funny about it is that nobody likes Omarosa, and so I think that it may have helped Trump among black voters that Trump called Omarosa a dog, because I don't think black people like her. I could be wrong, but I really don't think they like her. She's pretty, but she's pretty evil, pretty nasty woman. And so Omarosa got into the news. Oh, darn. Nah, it's all right. Joel's just sending me a note that I can't show you guys the Deadbeat Dad screenshot, but you can look it up. So Omarosa accused Trump of using the N-word. Gasp. It's the worst thing ever. and worse yet, Sarah Sanders, the White House press secretary, cannot confirm that there is no such tape of him saying the N-word. Because who knows and who cares and all of that. I can't picture Trump using the N-word, but that's really beside the point. The point is the N-word doesn't matter. Yes, there are a lot of people who overreact to it, so it's best not to use it. I cut it out for the most part. I tried to cut it out completely, but old habits die hard, you know. But generally, I don't use it because it's like people don't like it. Especially people overreact to whites using it. And we all know that. It's ridiculous that they overreact to it, and I've had a whole conversation with different people about it, including Charles from Compton, California. And so Omarosa is trying to promote her book, trying to stay relevant in the news, sell her book. She completely betrayed Trump. Omarosa Manigault Newman, whatever her name is, used to seem like she was loyal to Trump. And she's somewhat of like a so-called black conservative woman. That may be part of the reason that blacks don't like her, but I think the bigger part of the reason they don't like her is that she kind of brags about being a quote-unquote B-word. She has a whole book about it from 10 years ago, I think. It's called something like the B switch, something like that. The BIT blah 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 switch. It's hard not to say it. I don't use that word much. But in fact, I don't even know. Yeah, okay. Anyways, that word, it rhymes, so you want to say it. But anyway, the B switch, how to turn it on and off. Well, it seems like her off switch has malfunctioned because she's totally turned on the man who is responsible for making her career, Trump. And so she's out accusing Trump of using the so-called N-word. And so Trump said that she's a dog, and he's glad that General Kelly fired that dog because she used to work in the White House for him. So out comes Washington Post, whose mission is killing the people in darkness. Democracy dies in darkness. Stupid thing. They think that they're bringing light to the world. Show that Jeff Bezos quote. There's a something about in certain institutions have a role in making sure that there is light. Yeah, look, this is Jeff Bezos, Jeffrey P. Bezos, billionaire, bought the Washington Post. He's the one who started Amazon.com, I believe. Very smart guy, but very dark guy, because there can be smart, brilliant, evil people. And apparently this guy is evil. Yeah, you can join him. I have an intern who's coming in, but he's not going to come on screen necessarily. Welcome, Hector. Late. So, Jeff Bezos is saying that certain institutions have a very important role in making sure that there is light. The media has not been bringing light to the world. They have been not bringing light to the people of color, the POCs. And I got this article, and you can show a couple of the versions of the headlines, Joel, from Washington Post about something about Trump's racial rhetoric, Trump using racially charged invective is another word that they used in an alternative headline. I'm not going there. As Trump hurls racial invective, most Republicans stay silent. And this stuff is so dumb. And I'll tell you one reason that it's dumb is because, in general, all the stuff that Trump has been saying that's so-called racially charged happens to be true. For example, Omarosa, in a sense, she is a dog. Dogs tend to be loyal, so she's not quite a dog. But in a sense, she kind of is a dog, like a dirty person. And so they're saying that this is racially charged, which is really ridiculous. And I think that people want to see racism, and so they see it. And that's what's happened with blacks. They've been trained to see racism. Really, they're imagining it. First of all, it doesn't exist. It's not even real. And then second of all, you will see the various examples of so-called racism that are laid out in this article by rhino Republicans, by the way, anti-Trump type of people. You'll notice that they are all silly examples. And I'm going to read some of them to you. Jeff Flake, who is a total flake, who is based in Arizona, he's not running for re-election. Sheriff Joe Arpaio will hopefully replace him. We can all cross our fingers and pray and hope. That would be very nice. But Jeff Flake has been an anti-Trump so-called Republican. I don't know why he calls himself a Republican, because he's basically attacking conservatives and Trump supporters and good people. So he says, quote, "It all started," and you have this, I think. It's like one of the first ones after the headline. It started long before his campaign. The whole Barack Obama, the birtherism, that was abhorrent, I thought, Flake said in a phone interview. And then, you know, the Mexican rapists on his first official day as a campaign. Well, the Mexican rapist thing, if you want to deny that any Mexicans have committed rape, or anybody who's come up through Mexico has committed rape in the States, then you're spewing fake news, because it's a fact that some Mexicans have turned out rapists. And then he's talking about this Judge Curiel, this statement that he couldn't judge because of his heritage. That's fake news, because he didn't say that he can't judge because of his heritage. He said he can't judge because he's a Mexican judge, and he's into the Mexican thing. He belongs to something called like La Raza. So, and it might not be the exact same La Raza, but it doesn't matter. He's into that stuff, and he's a liberal judge. Turned out that Trump doing that might have helped his case because the judge, it made the judge do the right thing, if I recall. This Judge Curiel, I believe that he allowed the wall to go forward or something like that. Or might have been related to the Trump University or something. But he's like, this Judge Curiel has, I think he started to do the right thing. Failure to condemn in Charlottesville, which was an occurrence last year, which I talked about last week because it was the anniversary of Charlottesville, the Charlottesville riots of Antifa attacking the alt-right. And then one of the guys in the alt-right, apparently he like lost it, or he lost control of his car, or just went nuts, or all three. He was getting his car beat up by Antifa with a like flag. Antifa was hitting his car with flag poles and sticks and bats and things. They broke his tail light. So, and this guy had problems. He was a son of a single mother and just kind of an out of control person. But he was kind of like a white nationalist type of guy. He got sucked into that life. And, but it had nothing to do with the rest of the alt-right people over there. The rest of them were very well behaved. Yes, they did fight with Antifa, but they were defending themselves and they were defending other people. And then there were a lot of very good, decent people there. And on both sides, I guess. I don't know if you can be good and decent and be anti-white, but I guess you could. You could just be kind of a confused person. And then there's a lot of people on the pro-white side who are very good, decent people. And then there's also, yeah, Judge Curiel did side with Trump on the border wall ruling. So he did the right thing because Trump put him on notice that Trump isn't going to be intimidated by this, oh, you're Mexican, so I can't talk about you. And this is the same thing with all of this stuff. Charlottesville, yes, he did condemn the violence in Charlottesville. So Jeff Flake is really an evil person. Jeff Flake, the Republican rhino. He said, the Muslim ban is common sense. And it wasn't a banning of Muslims, it wasn't banishing Muslims from the country. It was just saying, we got to put a pause on all this refugee and immigration stuff. And then this, what he says that gets me, put that quote from Jeff Flake back up. It's not named, but you'll see it. This divide and conquer strategy. Isn't that ridiculous? Jeff Flake brought up Obama, birtherism, and birtherism, if you don't remember, birtherism is that notion that Obama may not have been born in the States. Because we really don't know. We haven't seen really a 100% confirmed valid birth certificate. I think Obama maybe was born in the States and then he's just using it to troll us, troll the people. But anyways, like, good guys went and questioned it, including President Trump, then just Donald Trump at that time. He was just Donald Trump. He wasn't a politician. And Sheriff Joe Arpaio, another good guy. He looked into that. And so Jeff Flake calling that divide and conquer, he should have been, I don't remember him calling out Obama as being a divide and conquer type of person. He may have, but Trump is uniting the races with truth. Let me get more into this article.
President Obama quit lying.
Yeah, President Obama quit lying. Who said that? Let me show you another gem of a person. Senator Bob Corker of Tennessee, another rhino who's not running for re-election, if I'm right. He's leaving Congress in January. He said it's a formula about the Trump crowd. They think it works for them as it relates to winning, referring to the use of divisive racial issues by Trump and his advisors. I think that's their kind of governing. I think that's how they think they stay in power, to divide. So stupid. These people are the ones who are dividing. Let's go on to the next one. They talk about, oh, these Washington Post people use such big words, racially charged invective, and then his attacks on the anthem protest by black NFL players, and possibly using the N-word. And they're saying that the president is reopening wounds many Republicans had sought to heal. So this is all really silly, because basically what they're saying is you can't tell the truth about anybody who's black or a woman or Chinese or LeBron James or anything like that. And by the way, they said that he questioned the intelligence of basketball star LeBron James. He did not question it. He said it's not intelligent, basically. So it's not for question. And then these silly Republicans, I have to like go in on these people. This guy named Mike Murphy is a veteran Republican consultant and vocal Trump critic. He called it moral cowardice that people weren't taking on Trump. He said he's speaking on that rage, Mexican rapists, clever Chinese traitors, African-American people as dogs, which is really silly. I think he only called 2 blacks, maybe only just 1 black person, a dog. Trump did. The rest of the people that he called dogs happened to be white. I mean, this is really beside the point, because are they dogs or are they not dogs? That's the point. And yes, they are dogs. Let's move on forward. Oh, this was, I was having flashbacks during this article, the reading of this article by the Washington Post, the fake news people who are trying to kill democracy in darkness. I was having flashbacks of Mitt Romney's loss in 2012 when Barack Obama won his re-election. The Republicans were frustrating me so much because the Republicans, I was ready to give up on the country, I guess, because the Republicans produced an autopsy report. An autopsy report saying that the party would need to make inroads among minority voters. In reality, you just have to tell the truth. That's what Trump is doing. And what's very interesting that I did not see in this article at all was that among blacks, Trump's approval rating is up from like 20% to 30%. Sorry, I need to silence my phone. But Trump's approval rating is high among blacks. And also not mentioned in this article, I didn't see anything about the hashtag walkaway movement by the POCs and the blacks and everybody else. And the gays and the, at least the halfway somewhat decent-minded gays, and the Hispanics. The hashtag walkaway movement was not mentioned in this article. Very interesting, huh? And then, what else? Focusing almost exclusively on disaffected white voters. I guess that's what it means to tell the truth, is you're focusing on disaffected white voters. Maybe the disaffected white voters really just want somebody who's going to tell the truth rather than try to make inroads among minority voters. Because when you just tell the truth, the minority voters start to wake up and start to like you. This is why I haven't given up on the country the way that Richard Spencer has, who's an alt-right guy. Richard Spencer has given up on America. He just wants to protect the whites anymore. And I can kind of understand where he's coming from, because white voters, although Richard Spencer may not be a conservative, most white voters are conservative, especially white men. But most whites, unlike the rest of the POC people, most whites are conservative. When you go into all of the other so-called ethnic groups, identity groups, most of them are not. But more and more of them are waking up. And that's what we want. We want to unbrainwash the people. And so even perhaps the POCs can come into this country and not destroy it if they wake up and join the side of the truth. And that's what Trump wants. And so, meanwhile, there's like these liberal professors at like Notre Dame University, saying their Republicans subtly and not so subtly reassure white Americans that their status in the country remains intact amid a fast-changing culture. He's trying to convince white people, meaning Trump, that the way to keep their long-term status is to keep out people of color, keep out immigrants, keep blacks down, and they'll feel better off by doing so. this is like crazy projection. I don't understand where these people get this notion, because that's not what anybody is saying at all. Whites are not concerned about losing their so-called status. Whites just want freedom. That's the only status that they care about, is freedom and truth to rule. At least white Republicans, you know, the white voters who support decency, the ones who are supposed to be Christians, the ones who are supposed to be conservative. That's all whites want. Is nothing makes, I'll speak as a white person, nothing makes me more upset about what's going on in the world than like blatant lies like this coming out. Basically, it's just an anti-white, anti-truth, anti-decency, anti-Christian push. That's what makes white people mad. That's why white people like Donald Trump. So right here, the SH whole countries. In January, Washington Post, ABC News poll said that Trump calling African-American nations S-hole countries, 52% of Americans said Trump is biased against black people for that comment. Well, 52% of Americans are dumb. In that case, they're wrong. Watch this. Watch this. At the bottom of it, it lists all the various percentages of people who think Trump was biased or not. And this is very old news too. I don't know why they're citing this. They're not citing the 30% of blacks now support Trump. But anyways, 79% of so-called African Americans said that Trump is biased, according to their little poll. And if you want to know the truth, if you're looking for the truth, go the opposite way, opposite direction of what 79% of African Americans are saying. Because, and I'm serious about that, if you're gonna find out what the truth is, check what the blacks are believing and go kind of the opposite way. Because most blacks are Democrats. Most blacks voted for Barack Obama twice, even after they were pretending to be disappointed by him supporting same-sex marriage. That was less important to them than hating whites or hating Mitt Romney, which I can't really blame them for hating Mitt Romney. Looking back, I'm kind of glad that Obama won twice. Yes, he really did destroy the country in a bad way in a lot of ways, but it really was a wake-up call, and maybe we needed that serious wake-up call. Trump has been experiencing a wake-up call since the 80s, or maybe before that. Maybe before that. He's been talking about putting America back on the right track for a long time, and I think that Obama may have been kind of the last straw with him. And he wasn't ready in 2012. He ran for office. He started to pretend like he was going to run for office in 2012, and then they scared him with, according to Patrick Rooney, the behind the headlines guy, he got scared when, or maybe not scared, but he decided not to sacrifice his business dealings by running for office at that time, because they were going after him financially on his businesses. Well, they went after him again in 2015, 2016, and that time he hung tough. So maybe Trump needed all of this stuff, and maybe all of us needed all this stuff to like wake up. And then in the last little thing about this article, Joel, I have like these people, these intellectuals who think they're so smart, writing for the Washington Post, and at the bottom, their mission, democracy dies in darkness. Ashley Parker, Sung Min Kim, Robert Costa, Scott Clement, Mike DeBonis, and Sean Sullivan all contributed to this report, so-called report. Isn't that crazy? They are off their rockers with this nonsense. They're wild. Let me go to a caller. Joe out of Atlanta, Georgia. Joe, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm good. I'm good. So I'd like to just make 2 points. I've called in before.
All right. Joe, are you on speakerphone?
Oh, okay. Sorry. I've been taken off.
Yeah, you sound like you're on a train.
Do you hear me? Is it better now?
Yeah, that's much better. Thank you.
Okay. So I was gonna say, with these polls they keep doing,
Yeah.
why do Republicans or conservatives even give it any type of credibility? Aren't these the
I
same
know.
polls that said Trump was gonna lose? I
Yeah.
mean, for what? 9 months or 10 months, they told us how he was bad and African American, nobody was gonna vote for Trump, and he won. I thought if you're a business and you're so bad at what you do, they should have gone out of business a long time ago. But they seem to still have some type of credibility, and I don't understand it. I mean, I really don't, because
Yeah.
Fox News and all the rest keep citing these polls. And
Right.
if they say Trump has 50, it means he has 80. That's how it works. You have to add always at least, 20 additional points to it because they're lying.
Right.
And the second thing I want to draw your attention to is these so-called elitists who keep continuously saying, "Oh, the white America is scared of." Now I'm black and African, so they say the white American is scared of the culture change. America is changing, and the white Americans are scared of.
And
So
and you know
I
what?
like to ask-
And let me just interject. And why shouldn't we not want the culture to change? We had a perfectly good culture. They hate the culture. They hate the white Christian
exactly
man-centered culture. And so they want to change it. They're glad that it's changing.
Can they give me an example of what other culture they are hoping that the
I know.
people coming into America are going to change the culture to, that we can look forward to? What other culture?
That's another point. That's another point, Joe.
Yeah.
Real quick.
What can we look up to? What can we look up to?
They're
Look forward
supposed
to.
in the olden days, these people, the culture was supposed to become. These people were supposed to come in and assimilate into the culture, not change the culture.
Exactly. And Western Europe is, immigrants are dying, thousands of them, just to get into Europe.
Yeah.
And now, do you think that the West should allow America to become like where these guys are running away from? I come from Africa. You think I want America to be like Africa? What's the point then? Why not stay where I'm at? It's ridiculous. These guys have no clue what is going on. They just have no clue. And for me, when they say Trump has 36% African Americans, make it 60. It's more like 60. Trust me,
You
because
might be right.
most blacks that I know support Trump. They
Yeah,
might not say it, but they support Trump.
I'll tell you what.
And so
I've said this before. Blacks like real people. Anybody likes real people. So Trump is liked by the real people, or at least by the people who like real people.
exactly.
And that goes
one
across the
thing-
board. But I know for a fact that blacks and Hispanics, those people like it when you're real with them, not when you're a politician.
And one other thing is,
yes.
and one thing is most immigrants. This is what the liberals don't get. Most immigrants are conservative. Most of them, because you can name a country. Hispanics, they believe in the family. Name blacks, we don't believe in. Most black countries, I don't know an African country that believes in gay marriage. Actually, in Kenya, the president told Obama when he comes to Kenya, he shouldn't talk about. He can keep his gay stuff in America and not bring it to Kenya.
I remember
he told
that.
him personally. So my point is this: they continue to make people think that any other culture is better than what we have here. No other culture. You wouldn't see Africans trying to get into China or Russia or
they won't let them.
Name it. Nobody wants to go there.
Yeah.
This is the only place. Now, if this place becomes like what? You don't see a lot of blacks trying to get into Mexico. No. I mean, so we want this place, and it's because of the white culture is what has allowed all of us to be able to come here and live together. Now, we don't want this to change into any other culture.
Right.
Because if we do, black people will get the brunt of the thing again. We are going to get the brunt because no other culture likes black folks. If they don't know this, they'll go to YouTube and check Saudi Arabia.
Not only is it that no other culture likes blacks, but like you said, they'll get the brunt because they haven't. Most of them haven't made it to become independent, able to live independently, and so that's why they suffer the worst with the illegal immigration thing, with the illegal aliens.
Exactly.
When the illegal aliens come in, or immigrants in general,
is very true.
It hurts them first.
And that's why when you see black people, the blacks that make it a bit out of, they have money like John Lemon and the black people that go on CNN and always baiting race. Yeah, they got it good. They live in the white neighborhood. I bet John Lemon doesn't live where the black folks live. He lives probably in the white neighborhood.
Don Lemon is not really black. He's like a radical homosexual. He has a white boyfriend. Yeah. He's no different from all the rest of the radical homosexuals because they all have to believe in the racism thing.
Exactly. But yet he comes on TV and tries to bait black folks to say, hey, we're fighting. He's racist. Don Lemon, you a yellow guy. Most black folks don't have anything in common with you.
Right.
Most black people don't have anything in common with you. So stop baiting race because America is a great country. It's allowed all of us to be able to come here and live together. Actually, I went to Alabama. One of my good friends, Johnny, old white guy in Texas, and anybody would see this guy and think he's racist. Actually, he is one of the nicest guys that I know.
Yeah.
I mean, he's so nice, and he has the Union Jack flag and everything, but he's not. He just wants to have his own country and and I understand. It just does not make any sense that, they're persecuting white folks so much, and I think that people should fight back. We shouldn't allow this liberal lunatics to take over America. We don't want American culture to change. This is the greatest culture. That's why we come here to work. We don't want it to change. I don't want it to be a Hispanic culture or any other culture, but what it is right now.
You said that you said that these people are clueless, but it's worse than clueless. They're actively pushing evil and lies and their own hatred.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what it is. I mean, maybe some of them don't know that they're lying. Yeah, maybe some of them are not conscious.
They're so dangerous.
Yeah, but
the leftist white, they're so dangerous.
They're evil. They hate America. They hate good people. And like you said, these guys that seem like racists, like your friend Johnny, I guess.
Johnny,
And you look at these older guys, Trump, and I love this point. I make it all the time. Trump and Sheriff Joe Arpaio, all these guys are like those old-fashioned American, no-nonsense men.
Yep.
And they're like, they have that, that, for lack of a better word that comes to mind, a-hole type of personality that commands and demands respect. And
that respect is the word.
And they're honest. They're some of the most honest, decent, loving people that you can find. And that's what I would love to go back to. And I think that that's why so many blacks are supporting Trump. That's why the hashtag walk away movement is working, because these people are seeing the contrast finally. It's just like me. I saw the contrast finally with all these other Republicans, that some of whom I used to be fans of. I used to really respect some of these conservative Republicans, but then once I saw Trump standing next to them, being a real person and watching them be politicians, it was just eye-opening what the difference is. And I hashtag walked away from the so-called conservative Republican Trump critics.
Yeah.
Such a mess.
Yeah.
I was never for the Trump critics, but anyways.
Yeah, but these Trump critics are sometimes they're very dangerous. Like just recently with Omarosa and how these people will go to the length. What she did, what this lady did, is so ridiculous and so backstab. I mean, can you imagine? She was planning this a long time ago, and all these guys just have put the good part of them. What would I say? The moral standard is throughout the window. They just threw it out the window, and they're just. I mean, who would do this? I mean, can you imagine being with someone and Trump, the way he is, he opens up to people, and this lady's recording. I mean, you do this to your wife, to
total
anybody.
betrayal.
This is total betrayal, and this leftist
She's a nasty
CNN
woman.
people, they have no value.
Yeah.
It's amazing. America is.
I agree, Joe. Appreciate your call.
No, it does serious trouble. Trust me, because it always comes to us because we are not properly organized. We don't have the money. We don't have anything.
Right.
So it's a problem. It's a problem. The leftist media they are the real enemy
Yeah.
CNN.
That's
they're
why
the
I
real
love.
enemy
That's why I
of
love Trump.
America.
That's why I love Trump, because he calls them the enemy of the people. But I gotta go, Joe. I appreciate your call.
Thank you.
Good to hear from you. By the way, catch Church. Are you catching Church? You still there? I think he's gone. So it's not Friday. You can't get it all off your chest. This well. Joe has had some really good points to make on this show over the years, weeks, months. But anyways, somebody made the point. I think it was Get a Job in this live chat. He made the point that New York Times, the day before the election, said that Trump had an 85% chance of losing, and he put like the laughing, crying face. And that's true. These people have no clue. And I want to make a point about the truth and about. I've made this point before about facts versus truth, and there are people who have a good handle on truth as opposed to facts. And I can list off a couple of them. One is Jesse, and the other one is Trump. And there may be others too. Joe Arpaio, he may be onto it like this too. But Jesse made the point in church and back last month too, and we put out a couple of videos. I don't have the screenshots of them, but it's called basically, there is no such thing as a deadbeat dad. And when he said that, I was so glad that he said that, because you hear that refrain all the time, and it's used by both conservatives and liberals. And this whole notion that blaming the father, putting all the blame on the father, that was the mistake that I believe Tupac made. Tupac rapped about, and Jesse writes about this in The Antidote. Tupac rapped about dear mama, and then he hates his dad, and he doesn't feel guilty because the coward wasn't there, or whatever like that. That's me rapping. So all these people are like mama's boys, and that's their downfall. And then they think that they hate their fathers, and just because the father wasn't there, we don't know the whole story. And most of the time, people don't ask the real story, or they're incredulous towards the father about his story. I think I'm using that word correctly. I'm not sure, but Get a Job saying Huffington Post on the day of the election said Trump had a 98.2% chance of losing. Think you Get a Job? These people are fake news, and that's why they're into so-called facts and statistics and polls and stupid stuff, but they're not into the truth. And meanwhile, Jesse's into the truth. Trump is into the truth, and they may occasionally get a minor irrelevant fact wrong, but the point remains of what they're saying. The point remains, which is the truth. And Jesse has said before that truth is a spirit. It doesn't have a color. So Jesse saying stuff about blacks, just the fact that he's black doesn't mean that he should get away with it any more than I should get away with saying the same stuff. But the difference is not the color, but the spirit, because the spirit of someone saying the truth matters, because this deadbeat dads thing. Say a father is not fulfilling his responsibilities. Jesse made the point in church last week that what light is going to be brought into the situation by calling them a deadbeat dad and judging them. And people are not even really getting the whole story. And so on top of not getting the whole story, you're also in the wrong spirit. You're in like a judgmental spirit. And Jesse said that before, and it kind of boggled my mind, that telling the so-called truth when you're angry is not truth. And that is so interesting. And the Bible says that Jesus said that I am the way, the truth, and the life. And so him being the truth shows you that truth is more than just facts. Truth is like way more than just facts. These media people, Jeff Bezos, he thinks he's bringing light to the world by having Democracy Dies in Darkness Washington Post calling out Trump as being potentially racist or something like that, or whatever the point of the article was. Basically, the point of the article was to attack a good man, but the notion of truth has to be from God only, really. And so isn't that interesting that it's not about intellectualism, because a lot of people look to their intellect and to knowledge and all that stuff looking for the truth. And yeah, that's part of it, I guess, but that's not it. It's an imitation of the truth. And these people are, like Jesse always makes the point, that Satan came as the light, and he quoted the Bible himself too. Satan quoted the Bible to try to trick Jesus and all kinds of other people. He's tricked a lot of people. And meanwhile, there's all these people these so-called Bible-believing Christians who believe something is in the Bible that's not even there. Namely, that you continue to sin every day and you're not supposed to become perfect. It's like directly contradicting what the Bible says. The Bible says stop sinning and be perfect. So anyways, I just wanted to make that point. I think I finished with it. Deadbeat dad is a silly notion, and don't bandwagon with the children of the lie, or even the conservatives, because many of them are that too. Anyways, I want to go to Ignacio out of Monterrey, Mexico. Ignacio, how are you doing?
Hey, James, how are you?
Good to hear from you. Fine, thank you.
Excellent, thanks. I just want to say two quick things. The first one is the point on the deadbeat dads. And I was able to watch church last Sunday. That's when Jesse talked about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Jesse. I started thinking about the couples that have divorced in my family and outside, and I started really thinking about in those cases why basically 100% of the time the dad left. And yeah, it was exactly what Jesse said. They couldn't handle the mothers, and since the court systems today, basically it's all towards the mothers. Even though the mothers could be almost basically crazy, they still end up keeping the kids.
Yeah.
And that even happened with me for a long time. Remember when the first time I called, I forgave my father.
Yeah.
And I thought for a long time that it was him that caused a lot of bad things in the family, and it wasn't. It was my mom put me against him.
Yeah.
But then I forgave her and forgave him, and I realized that, and he basically told his story how it happened, and he couldn't handle my mom anymore, so he ended up leaving us. And for a long time, I resented him for doing that, but the whole it was basically because he couldn't handle my mom anymore. So then there was another one where one of my uncles was a big alcoholic, but he was still he still had his responsibility, which were my cousins, his kids, his 3 kids, and my aunt, left him, but he was the one maintaining the house, maintaining my cousins and everything, and he was a great father. My cousins and we never complained about my uncle. Yes, he was drinking and things like that, but he always took us out and things like that. That was in his time on the weekend.
Yeah.
But he wasn't a deadbeat dad. He just
right.
He was a father. He was a father, and he was a great husband. In reality, he was, but she used that excuse to do certain things and act a certain way, and he ended up leaving.
Wow.
And anyways, that's on deadbeat dad. And the next point I want to say is, big congratulations to you and Jesse and the show. I've seen it, week after week, how your views are increasing, the live views, the community's growing, and how basically it's don't give up. Besides learning how to forgive my mother and my father, and not caring about the material things, not caring about this world, but further up, knowing what the truth is and not being brainwashed. And basically, I've also learned through you guys not to give up. You know, you guys are really speaking the truth. And I've seen that week after week. Like, your show is becoming more popular. People are waking up. And really, congratulations. And I'm 100% supporting you guys. I don't have a lot of money to give, but, you know, a couple pennies, dollars, you know, pesos in my case, that I can give. I'm 100% behind you guys, and congrats. Really keep it up. And you guys are a real big, huge motivation for me personally.
That's cool, Ignacio. Thank you, man.
Yeah, and that's all I wanted to say. But thanks a lot, James, and I'll call back in, I guess, a couple of weeks, man.
All right, cool. Have fun in Mexico.
Excellent.
Say hello to your dad. Does your dad ever watch this stuff?
No, he forgot English. He forgot
Okay.
yeah, he just speak English about 15 years ago, but he forgot. He understands it, but
Right.
yeah, he's on the same page.
Nice.
Believe it or not,
That's cool.
same page, man. Same page about everything. Everything.
Yeah.
I talk to him about all these things that you guys say, and he's just like, I know, I told you. And I'm like, wow, you're so right. You're so right, Dad.
Nice. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Thanks a lot, James.
All right, thank you, Ignacio. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Take care.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Bye. Wow, isn't that nice? So, Ignacio, he called maybe a year ago, maybe less, but he called in, and I'd seen him watching the live chat on church, and he was concerned. I think, if I remember correctly, he was concerned that his English was not perfect or something. But I could be wrong. I feel like I have to be wrong, but I don't think I am. But his English is great. He lived up here in the States, in I forget where, one of those states back in the Midwest or the East, back east or somewhere. But he was deported, and it got him back in town with his father, and so he reconnected with his father, and it was the best thing for him. And then his mother's still back here in the States, but he was deported because he was brought here illegally. So crazy, very cool, interesting, Mamma Mia, hola story. I couldn't even say it in this. Jesse said it with a better accent than I did. Hola. So, I wanted to talk about these this interracial hate and violence. There is a lot of interracial hate and violence in the country. It might be getting better because of Trump. Thank you, President Trump, for pushing for love and unity and all that stuff. But there's a big lie in the media, going back to these people that are pushing fake news. There's a big lie that blacks are the victims of interracial hatred and violence. And in a sense, they're right in terms of the interracial hate, because a lot of people do hate blacks. It's not without reason. It's not good to hate, but it's not without reason. And part of it is because they are hateful themselves, and they are not victims, they are the perpetrators of hate. When you're a perpetrator, you are also a victim, because you become a victim of your own hatred. And it's not even your own hatred, it's like you're possessed. And it spreads is the problem. The problem is that human beings are a bad influence on each other. They're almost never a positive influence on each other. Somebody who's a better behaved kid who hangs out with a badly behaved kid is going to get worse. It's just how it works. Unless you're a really strong character like Trump or Joe Arpaio or the old time a-hole. Sorry if I keep on using this and it's annoying you, but that's the only word I can think of. Anyways, old-fashioned, hard-nosed, truth-telling people. And if you're not one of those, you're going to be influenced towards negativity. And just look at how we did nothing in the 60s, we being America, did nothing in the 60s when black out-of-wedlock birth rates started to spike. Well, whites are above that spike level of out-of-wedlock birth rates. So whites are sliding. And what's interesting is that out-of-wedlock births are just one symptom of many. And it is very interesting among children and among races, the phenomenon of anger affecting people differently. The symptoms that come out of them become wildly different. Some kids turn homosexual. Some kids turn violent. Some kids turn compliant. Some kids rebel, all that stuff. And with blacks, it's been violence, and they've been tempted to think in external terms. They see a white person disagreeing with them, must be racism. They see all that stuff. That's like a temptation that's put on blacks that because when you're an angry person, you're a shallow person, and so you have all of this stuff going on, but then the media doesn't tell the truth. And you can't really blame the media because the media is not into the truth. These people tend to be liberals. They tend to be brainwashed themselves by being raised up in these institutions where you're not taught the truth. You're not taught to care about truth. You're taught to care about facts and stupid stuff like that, and believe that racism is real, which is not a fact, but they think that it is. And so I want to point this stuff out, that most blacks voted for Obama twice, and that's why you shouldn't go along with what most blacks say, such as when most blacks thought that Trump was biased against blacks when he said that there are S-hole countries. That's just, it's really, it's harsh to say, but it's the truth, and that's what Jesse's trying to do. Jesse pointed out that there is no such thing as deadbeat dads. Calling them deadbeat dads is not bringing light to the situation. It's bringing darkness. It's just making them feel even more judged. They've already feel judged by being wrong and not fulfilling their responsibilities and running away from the woman. These fathers who can't handle the woman, and most fathers can't really. Some of them are just compliant, and some of them become called deadbeats, and they're on the defensive all the time. Joel makes the point, and Jesse makes the point all the time with these fathers, that these fathers, when you go and forgive them, you don't come attacking them, because that's all they've ever been, is attacked. They've never been shown love. And so people say, I saw a comment under this deadbeat dads thing, Jesse, you're a hypocrite because you judge blacks all the time. You call them lazy, you call them dumb, you call them whatever the things that Jesse has called them. And it's funny because I've typed word for word some of the things that Jesse has said and posted it to Facebook, not under my own name, but under the Jesse Lee Peterson Show, because I help manage that page, in addition to Jesse does too. But I've typed that, and then it gets flagged as hate speech because it sounds very harsh when you're reading it, especially if you're not seeing a good person who's coming at them with love like Jesse is saying it. You're just reading it, and then you see my picture. My picture's a white person, and most social media people that run social media are very liberal and shallow, and so they see a white person saying something harsh about blacks, racism, hate speech, blah, blah, blah. And that's why, like, the social media people are attacking Alex Jones and all that stuff. They're, like, banishing him from the world basically because he's an effective truth teller. And yes, he gets a little wild sometimes, and he maybe didn't need to cast all that much doubt on the Sandy Hook shootings. People will rely on that. I don't think that he actually said that it didn't happen. He maybe said that it's possible that it didn't happen. But anyways, back to this thing about Jesse telling the truth about blacks and that being called judgment. It's not judgment, and I've made this point before. When he said that about blacks, he said something about blacks not caring. They don't care. And it was kind of funny because Jesse's very expressive and funny, but it was also very true, and like I haven't heard that type of love before. And I can understand the blacks that get upset by it because as an employee, sometimes I do something wrong and he calls me out for it. It's not very comfortable to be called out for it. But after you calm down, you realize that it's right. It's love and all that. So I wanted to point that out, that there's no hypocrisy in saying there's no such thing as a deadbeat dad when you say there is such a thing as a lazy, uncaring black person. Because people have across the board been covering for blacks, and that's not doing blacks any favors. Meanwhile, people have been attacking fathers, and that's not doing fathers any favors. So I just wanted to make that point. And by the way, LeBron is not smart. It's a shame because people can be very talented. Look at Jeff Bezos. Look at, he's a billionaire, and he runs companies and all that. He's very fit. Same thing with LeBron. Very fit, great athlete, all that stuff, I guess. I haven't watched him too much. But he's very fit and very successful in the worldly sense. So this stuff shows you that the truth and success and all of that stuff, there's something more important than all that worldly stuff. I wish that I have a caller that I've been like trying to get to, but I need to train I have a couple of interns working for me. And sometimes my callers like to talk the call screener's ear off before the call screener can put them on hold. And I've experienced it too. And now I know how Jesse feels when I do it to him. So like the call screener is like talking to the caller, and he's like blah 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 blah. The caller is doing this, keeping the call screener on the phone. And meanwhile, Jesse is waiting for me to put them on hold because I pick up the phones during the week. Anyways, it's funny. Charles, I was just talking with you about you. Charles out of Compton, California. How are you doing?
I'm all right, James, my man. How are you? What were you saying about me, James?
I was saying that, I was bringing up the N-word point. The fact that people shouldn't use the N-word because it's upsetting to a lot of people. So out of simple respect, it's nice not to use the N-word. And I talked about how it shouldn't be a big deal that a white person uses it, and that I had a conversation with you about it.
So do you abstain from using it at this point?
Yeah, generally. I may slip up now and then. I can't guarantee there's not another tape out there of me using it.
Right.
But generally, I don't use it. Because,
you know what, I want to commend you then
Thank
on
you.
that. Definitely. That's a very positive thing, a move in the right direction.
Nice. Thank you, Charles.
So let's see if we can come to some common grounds maybe on the scenario with LeBron.
All right.
You kind of see where he's basically made a very positive contribution recently. And the things that he said haven't really been inflammatory, to the point so reasonable that even Donald Trump's own wife has sided with him in the scenario.
I don't know if that's real or not. I don't know if she really did or not. I don't really care that much about what Melania thinks. Her job is to look pretty as the first lady, kind of, and be a classy woman. If she disagreed with Trump on that, that's not very classy. She should stand by her man. But
well, if he was the head of his wife, I don't think she would do that.
Well, I don't know. I'll tell you what. Women can be very rebellious just as children can. And so it doesn't mean that the father has totally failed or that the husband has totally failed. But I'll tell you that this LeBron thing with him starting that school, I'm not for that. And I'll tell you why. The last thing that the blacks need is more quote-unquote education. Because all it is really miseducation. It's brainwashing. LeBron himself is brainwashed by this false racism thing. So I can understand that maybe his intentions are nice because he wants to help or something like that. I've heard that this school is mostly like funded by the government or taxpayers, to be honest. But that he did give $2 million to the school, or he plans to give in the vicinity of $2 million a year. And it might be lower, it might be higher. But
for at-risk youth of all colors.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds nice, but the problem is, and you know this, education isn't really education anymore. It's a brainwashing. It makes people dull. Most educated people, you don't even want to listen to them. It's hard to even listen to them talk. You know what I mean?
Most educated people are successful, though.
No, that's not true, man.
The thing.
No, not remotely successful. I mean, not remotely is most educated people successful. That's not true. Most educated people, I mean, you could argue that most educated people had the benefit of having a society where they can have the benefit of like a cushy society, I guess, and financially they're like okay, but I disagree. I totally disagree.
Well, if you ask like Thomas Sowell, for example, or Larry Elder, they'll tell you that when they came from a tough community, education was their only way out. Now, if you come from a rich family and you may be able to inherit something or step into a business, something of that nature, it's invaluable that you at least get a trade. Even if you don't want to go the traditional route of getting a degree. All right.
If you want to include getting a trade, which is to say working as an education, then but that's not what they mean by education. He means a school. LeBron is not opening up a trade school. He's opening up a school with art and all that stuff.
Don't you understand that it's just getting a degree and going into even a regular job, you increase how much you get paid, you increase your worth as an employee. It's just very valuable. As long as you don't get a degree that's not, worth much. You have to make sure that you have the right guidance, you're guided in the right direction. But some people who are not cut off for traditional education, once that is assessed and identified, see, that's why I don't buy the affirmative action and people, see, because once you get into these schools, whether you got in through affirmative action, you've got to meet certain requirements. And they're not going to give you a ride at that point. No free rides. You have to earn your grades. Yeah. So the people who are not qualified, even if they made it through affirmative action, they're not going to be able to succeed in that environment. So when you see people succeeding against all odds, when you think they shouldn't have been successful, they end up being very successful in life a lot of times. These people that were given the opportunity to get higher education, and they did succeed. So the affirmative action was valuable because people would have thought that they couldn't succeed and wouldn't even give them a chance.
No, that's not good. You shouldn't be for affirmative action, and the reason is that it makes everybody suspect, and they know this.
You see, people who have the mentality like Jesse, who say, okay, blacks aren't smart enough, so why should we even allow them to enter an Ivy League school, another higher institution of learning?
They should make their own schools. If they really want to
do that. I mean, that's not realistic, though, okay? Now, Booker T. Washington made his own school, Tuskegee, in Alabama.
Yeah,
do you remember that?
He wasn't particularly rich. He was a former slave. He did it with no...
And do you remember what they did, though?
Did he do it with affirmative action?
He did it with help. And also the sponsors that helped him.
But everybody gets help.
You have to understand...
That's irrelevant.
Do you realize what they did at Tuskegee? Also, they experimented on blacks through multiple medical experiments, like syphilis was one of the common ones that's known by a lot of people, and they have a lot of other ones that aren't as commonly known. But there was a lot of things going on that were very treacherous in those times that were still being perpetrated upon black people. Now, there's no blame for anyone at this point in time.
Yeah.
Because we've reached a new day, but we acknowledge the past and learn from it.
I mean, to be honest, I don't know much about that. I don't particularly care because it's like, it's not that interesting to me. I mean, if somebody can tell me the absolute truth, then that's great. But I'm not feeling like I'm getting the whole story. You know what I mean?
Well, you can do a little more research on that topic if you like, but
I don't.
The information's available.
Yeah, I know, but But I'll tell you what, like the information is biased. Most you'll notice that most history books are written by liberals, and they don't care about the truth. They care about deluding people.
Most history books are actually done by the Rockefeller Foundation. They actually control what goes in our history books. If you know, that's another fact that's out there as well.
And they're not
readily researchable.
They're not particularly pro-Trump. They're not particularly conservative, are they?
No, they aren't. There's the neocons and the neo-libs together. You know, they have one agenda that's bigger than any of us common, folk out here.
Charles, make your last point. I got to close. I'm like way over
Okay,
time.
this is my last point right here. Take into consideration that black people are not inferior by nature. When Martin Luther King was killed, you have to understand that there was a lot of people doing things the right way, nonviolent, resisting, and there was a demoralization that happened at that point. There was a hopelessness that happened. And I'm speaking from the elders, the people that I've talked to who lived through it, who were actually a part of it. And, there was a real sense of hopelessness, and a lot of self-hatred and low self-esteem came from that. So,
Charles,
the plight of the black man is improving. The crime has definitely lowered. And I think if you and Jesse take a softer approach, most black people are conservative by nature. Remember, most blacks were Republicans until Goldwater.
Nobody said blacks were inferior, man.
Well, that's what Jesse says all the time. Not all, but most.
All right, I got to go, Charles. I appreciate your call. Tune into church in an hour. In less than an hour.
All right, James. Peace, James. Have a good one.
All right, you as well. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Thank you, guys. Go to church. You go to rebuildingtheman.com/church online, or just click right over. If you click on the little information thing right here, this says Bond, Rebuilding the Man. That's the YouTube channel. So check it out. I think I showed it. Was I showing it all messed up? Anyways, Bond, Rebuilding the Man YouTube channel. In 1 hour at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 1 Central, 2 p.m. Eastern. Go there. Bye.
Yeah.